Over the last few decades, the threat of pollution has increased exponentially. According to the Health Effect Institute's 2019 report, air pollution is the fifth leading risk factor for mortality worldwide. In fact, air pollution contributed to the deaths of about 5 million people in 2017 and in 2019 alone, when 70 million tons of pollution was emitted into the atmosphere. Remarkable changes unfolded as COVID-19 began to spread, yet also unearthing advantages. According to government data in Delhi, India, the atmospheric levels of nitrogen dioxide and small pollutant particles PM2.5 decreased by over 70% as of April 2020. And the reason for this miracle was the lack of something quite significant: transportation. So we decided to interview a local official on the Transportation Committee for more information.
I'm Supervisor Candace Anderson, and I serve on the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors. I represent District 2, which includes the cities of San Ramon and Danville, Alamo, part of Walnut Creek, Lafayette, Moraga, and Orinda. In the Bay Area, automobiles are one of the greatest contributors to our greenhouse gas emissions, or more commonly, air pollution. And so as we started our strict shelter in place back in March, we saw a significant decrease in vehicles on the road, and thus we did see some real benefits with our air pollution.
While locally, a momentous change may not have been noticed, heavily polluted cities like certain areas in China, a clear difference in air quality was definitely perceivable.
Especially in China, if you look at the atmospheric data in the first couple of weeks of their shutdown, because their restrictions were much more strict than what we had in the United States, you could actually see improvements in the air quality over the cities in China. So people were saying that they were seeing sunsets for the first time, blue sky for the first time in a long while, because typically the city has so much exhaust from cars and also exhaust from factories that you can't see those things.
According to Marshall Burke, an Earth system scientist at Stanford University, the drops in pollution in China most likely saved between 53,000 to 77,000 lives because of the shutdowns. But would this inconceivable peace last?
If you look at charts where when people get a little bit more complacent, more people are going back to work, of course, more people are driving in commute hours. Now, what you are seeing, though, too, is car sales are up. And you kind of think they wouldn't, but a lot of people are recognizing they can work from anywhere. They're going on more road trips.
As the temporary stage of paused life began to disappear, so did low pollution levels. For example, for Daegu, a city in Korea, the number of unhealthy days where the AQI was greater than 100 decreased during lockdown, but greatened after it ended. Quarantine has been a temporary hiatus from the harsh reality of pollution, but is it merely a flimsy facade? Because one thing is quite certain: quarantine has not been enough to restore our environment into pristine condition.
I think especially now, with the internet, with the access that we all have to information and the access that we all have to our public officials, it's incredibly important for us to not just make those changes in our daily lives, but also to contact the people who make our laws and contact the people who are able to affect change in alignment to the concerns of their constituents, right? Whether that's our congressperson, our senator, our representatives, right? If these are priorities that we have and they're things that we want to be more wide-reaching, it has to go further than just what's happening inside of our homes, because the responsibility should not be completely on the citizens. It should also be on the people who are shaping our countries and shaping our communities.
The debate between government action and citizen responsibility has always been a prevalent one, and throughout these uncertain times, our officials have made strides regarding the state of our environment.
We are in the process of developing an app where you could pay for your ride, plan your ride on maybe 3 or 4 different types of mobility, whether you start out on an electric bike and then you get to a park and ride and you get picked up by a county connection bus and then you end up on a BART train somewhere, but you'll be able to figure that all out and pay for it on one app.
Along with administrative action, climate change awareness was on the rise and more climate strikes started taking place. But with the unexpected arrival of COVID-19, the accumulation of activism had diminished as more pressing issues arose.
I think we were reaching a very high amount of traction for youth involvement in environmental change. Because if you look back at the end of 2019, that was right around when Greta Thunberg was super, she was super in the cultural zeitgeist, if you will. She'd just spoken at the UN. We were all feeling super inspired and amped by this amazing young person, and people were really paying attention, right? And then the pandemic happened, and we haven't really been able to think about anything else since then.
Regardless of the setbacks quarantine has posed, the fact remains that people care. People are taking action. Doherty Valley High School sophomore Mitali Middle is one such person.
I've always just been really passionate about climate change and stuff like that. And I joined the Sunrise Movement like a year ago, and yeah, I basically participate in all those events. So I decided to do this climate strike, and we actually created a lot of news because of that climate strike. I think the guy who actually led the climate strike, Aiden, he was on the news, like the local San Ramon news. So that was a pretty big deal. So yeah.
Of course, the possibilities of climate strikes are not currently viable during quarantine, but like Noah mentioned, pollution is much more than what occurs in our homes. As citizens, we cannot remain complacent, so we still have the responsibility to remain aware.
It has to be something that everybody jointly takes seriously and really makes significant changes on how we do things like our agriculture and how we handle transportation and how we, use our energy sources for industry, making that really tough transition into cleaner energy sources or practices.
I think overall, we're heading back in the right direction, but it isn't going to be happening very quickly, though I wish it could be happening faster.
We're coming out of a pandemic. We have new beginnings. It's time to start reevaluating what you're doing to reduce your carbon footprint. And so take advantage of this opportunity to figure out what your new beginning is going to look like.
New beginnings.
New beginnings.
New beginnings.